Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog, and in this one, we have a very interesting report out of Evan Sidery. It's not really out of him, he's just kind of reposting it out of something Brian Windhorst said from an ESPN.com free agency insider intel article that you have to have ESPN Plus in order to even look at. But with that being said, I do want to talk about what he tweeted because it relates to Myles Turner in his free agency. So Evan Sidery put out this tweet that says the Pacers absolutely want to retain Myles Turner this offseason, but they have no intentions of crossing the luxury tax threshold per Brian Windhorst, ESPN. If Indiana re-signs Turner, they will need to make a cost-saving trade with a key rotation piece. Okay, now I'm gonna say this. Okay, I have to admit some things in this video. Thomas Bryant has not been the player I thought he would be. I like his energy. I think he's a good bench center. I'd be very curious to see what he could do as a starter, just given the opportunity. But at the end of the day, like, there's a reason the guy's a bench player. There's a reason Tony Bradley was bought in. So Thomas Bryant has not been the long-term solution at center if Myles Turner doesn't come back. I can admit that. I was a huge Thomas Bryant fan. I still am a huge Thomas Bryant fan. It just, I haven't been getting the level of production out of him that I was expecting to get when we traded for him. I get it, maybe my expectations were a little too high on him, but it's just the idea after what I saw him do in LA and in Denver, in other places, I was like, okay, like, he's done this before, like, he can do this, right? It's just, we haven't seen it. So I have no reason to believe anymore that he's going to actually be the starting center of the Pacers one day. I never thought he would be. I always thought he would just be a bridge guy. You know what I'm saying? I always thought I don't know why people thought that I thought Thomas Bryant would actually replace Myles Turner. That seems to be something that people get misconstrued all the time. I actually had a guy on fucking Twitter that every time Thomas Bryant had a bad game would like tweet at me and go, so what do we think now about Thomas? I just blocked him. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing this every time the dude has a bad game. Like, he had 2 games before this that were like 10-7, 10-8, and you choose to tweet at me the one time he's 1-7 with 2 points. Like, I'm not doing this. So it just Thomas Bryant has not lived up to at least what I thought he would be. I still think Thomas Bryant was good value for a second-round pick. I will throw that out there. Obviously, it was a second-round pick we traded for him. It wasn't going to be anything substantially great. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we traded a first-round pick for this guy. So I can't say the expectations were astronomical. I just thought it was, at the time, a good trade for what we gave up. And I still think it was. I think it solved the problem for a pick that we don't care about. You know what I'm saying? Right now, that second-round pick is, not really valuable to us at the current point in time. Thomas Bryant was more valuable to us than that second-round pick was. So I still think it was a good trade. I'm not mad about it. My problem with the whole thing going on right now with Myles Turner and everything is Herb Simon continues to show us why he will never be a winning NBA owner. Time and time again, this dude proves to us why he will never be the owner of a championship basketball team. And it's because when it comes to spending money on a team that's good, this man doesn't want to do it. He'll pay Tyrese Halliburton, he'll pay Pascal Siakam. Yeah, maybe because he thinks they're worth it, but even them, right? Even the both of them are arguably overpaid. Siakam, you can make an argument for. Siakam's played out of his mind this year. But Tyrese is overpaid. I'm going to call it what it is. I love Tyrese. Tyrese is a great player. That doesn't mean I think the amount of money he gets paid is justified. Okay? There's an argument to be made. Actually, I don't even think it's an argument. But Pascal Siakam consistently all year has been a better player than Tyrese Halliburton for the most part. Okay? And I don't think that's a hot take at all. Tyrese Halliburton only started getting his shit going once the All-Star break ended. So that's the thing, okay? Like, we tend to spend money in places that I don't know if we should spend it in. Like Obi Toppin's a piece that would have to move. Like, yeah, the salary cap goes up again next year, not by a whole hell of a lot. I think it's like $14 million. Then you would have to move Obi Toppin, preferably, considering he's making $14 million next year. Regardless of what you think of Obi Toppin, if they want to bring back Myles Turner, they would have to move Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin makes just a substantial amount of money. There's an argument to be made that he's worth what he's getting paid, and an argument to be made that he's not worth what he's getting paid. Personally, I don't care. Personally, I'm like, you know what? I like Obi Toppin enough that I'm like, you know what? If $14 million gets me one of the best bench scorers in the league, I'm fine with it. Okay? But the thing is, Herb Simon continues to trip over dollars to pick up pennies. And it has been the downfall of this team time and time again, where they just simply won't go over the luxury tax because for whatever reason, this man does not believe in the product he's putting on the floor. So my question would then be, right, if you're not going to spend the money, why do you spend the money on franchise players, right? Like, I get it. You need franchise players, but why are you spending more money on Tyrese Halliburton than he's worth? Why are you spending more money on Obi Toppin than he's worth? Why are you spending more money on Pascal Siakam than he's worth? I get it. To keep these guys in Indy, you have to go over the luxury tax, or you have to pay guys more than what they're worth to keep them there. I get that. I get that, right? However, I'm not understanding that if you understand that, right? If you understand that, why do you not understand going over the cap to keep Myles Turner around? For whatever reason, it seems like Myles Turner always gets the short end of the stick. I understand a couple years ago they had to, eliminate some cap space, and they decided to pay Myles Turner 1 year like $35 or $37 million just so they wouldn't get fined, or they avoided a fine or something by paying him $37 million or some stupid shit, okay? My problem with the whole thing is, instead of keeping this team together, this guy would rather let Myles Turner walk in free agency, draft a center, and hope that that player is now better than Myles Turner. Now, I've been of that impression for a long time now, okay? I've been of the impression that you could probably draft a center that's just as good or maybe even better than Myles Turner a year or two into their career. Mostly because I feel like while Myles Turner is very, very good, I just feel like even Alex Sarr last night against the Wizards, okay? We saw what Alex Sarr did against Myles Turner, and Alex Sarr is a fucking rookie, okay? So, that's where I could kind of understand why maybe Herb Simon is having a problem reaching into his pocketbook for Myles Turner. But the thing is, they also have to bring back Benedict Mathurin. Andrew Nembhard gets a pay increase next year. There's a lot of guys due for pay increases next year. And Andrew Nembhard goes up to $18 million. And the thing is, I don't understand. Do you plan to trade Andrew Nembhard? Because you can't. If you trade Andrew Nembhard, good luck on defense. So it's just you either trade. I don't even think Nesmith is going to be the one to go either. I think it's going to be someone like Obi Toppin, and because he makes $14 million. He's one of the higher contracts on the books, and he's a bench player. Obi Toppin's been very good, but I feel like if they had to move on from anybody, it would be Obi Toppin. Even if I disagree with it, okay, you're going to disagree with it. Everybody's going to fucking disagree with it. But it's just the idea, when push comes to shove, unless you trade Aaron Nesmith. But Aaron Nesmith, the problem with Aaron Nesmith's contract is it's only $11 million. It's not a significant move if you get rid of him. You know what I'm saying? Especially for, a team that struggles with front court players and size and stuff like that, which is even less of a reason to trade Obi Toppin. But you paid him he's making $14 million next year. So I don't know. This front office has a lot of soul searching to do this offseason, because I'm going to tell you right now, if we end up with the 3rd seed and we somehow magically end up back in the Eastern Conference Finals and Herb Simon still will not go over the luxury tax to bring back Myles Turner, I don't know what to tell you. The owner's fucking stupid. I don't know what to tell you. The only time, I understand that the only time you're supposed to go over the luxury tax is for a team that is capable of winning a championship, right? I understand that. That's the only time teams really do it. But look at Boston, man. Boston went all in. They were like, yeah, we're going to trade for this guy, sign this guy. We'll go over the cap to sign all these motherfuckers. Yeah, we won't be able to sign a free agent, but we'll have a damn good roster. And even if I don't entirely agree with Myles Turner's fit on the team, and like while I do think rebounding and boxing out is a huge problem for this team, I don't know how much better you actually get than Myles Turner, unless you just get a really good center in the draft. But then, okay, the flip side of the coin to that is how upset will Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam be? Like, my problem with this whole thing in general is I feel like they're taking Myles Turner's loyalty for granted. You know how long I've been saying that? Don't take Myles Turner's loyalty for granted, all right? And this feels like one of those situations where it's not the front office, okay? It is ownership that is taking Myles Turner's loyalty for granted. They think that Myles Turner will come back for cheaper. And there is some logic behind that, being that there's only really a handful of teams that can make a serious run at Myles Turner in free agency, majority of them being bad teams. But it's just the idea, why even risk it? Like, why? I don't know. I don't understand why they seem to be so obsessed with banking on the idea that Myles Turner is just going to come back. Unless Myles Turner gave them some type of promise that he's going to come back in the offseason, I don't understand why they didn't trade him at this point then. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you had no intentions of going over the cap or the luxury tax, right, to bring Myles Turner back, why would you not trade him? Why would you not trade him and try to get something, I don't know, you're so worried about fucking cash, right? Something more financially responsible with the same production, right? And run with that. If that was your concern the whole time, right? Because that's the only thing I can think of is Myles Turner comes back for less money, and I just simply don't see a world in which that happens. Okay, Myles Turner coming back to the Pacers on a deal that's like $18 or $20 million a year would be a fucking godsend. Okay, because even though Myles Turner is, I think this year improved a lot. I think he's shown us a bit more this year. I think every year Myles Turner is showing us just a little bit and a little bit more. I wish the rebounding was a little better, but it's just the idea, like from three, Myles Turner's still a very good three-point shooter. He's still decent at blocking shots. The rebounding is what it is. But it's just the idea, I'm at a point now where I'm like, you had a chance to make a move and you didn't, and now you're banking on the idea that he's going to come back for less money when you got guys like DeAndre Ayton making more money than him. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what the plan is here, but this offseason is going to be incredibly interesting. Ben Matherin's a guy that I look at and I'm like, okay, like what's the deal with him? I would assume he's going to get an extension in the ballpark of what Andrew Nembhard got, or maybe a little less, maybe a little more. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is on that, but I would assume it's going to be I would assume it's going to be in the ballpark of what Andrew Nembhard makes. So at the end of the day, man, all I can do is call balls and strikes on this. But it's just the idea, it irritates me that we could end up as a top 3 seed in the East, and the owner doesn't see that as a team that's good enough to win a championship. Now, there's a completely justified argument to make that we are not better than the Boston Celtics, or, you know, there's a reasonable argument to make that we're not better than, like, the Cleveland Cavaliers. But every other team, I think we're better than. And even these teams like Cleveland and Boston, you know, I still think we're capable of giving them a run for their money. You know what I'm saying? So I think just because of that idea alone should be at least justifiable enough for you to go over the fucking luxury tax just one time to try the shit out. Like, I don't think that's a giant ask. You know, like, you're a multi-billionaire who owns the Indiana Fever. You also own the fucking Indiana Pacers. And we are essentially bitching and complaining about X millions of dollars to have a successful basketball team. Had no problem doing it with Caitlin Clark. Had no problem doing it with the Indiana Fever. Why? Because they make the same salaries as a fucking janitor at Goldman Sachs. Okay? So that he doesn't have any problems spending money on the Indiana Fever. But when it comes to the Pacers, suddenly it's like, oh, well, that, I don't know, $10 or $15 million fucking luxury tax cap hit I might take or whatever, that's too much. Can't do that. I can't do that to possibly have a successful fucking basketball franchise. 2 of them. Okay? The Indiana Fever are going to gross this man an insane amount of money this upcoming year with how many nationally televised games they're going to have and how many stadiums that fucking team is going to sell out. And we are bitching and complaining and tripping over dollars to pick up fucking pennies just to keep your center in town. You gotta be fucking kidding me. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. I'm sorry, it doesn't. This bullshit of never wanting to go over the luxury tax is gotta end at some point, Herb. It's gotta end at some point, man. You gotta wake up and smell the fucking coffee. You either want to be a winning basketball team or you fucking don't. Teams that win go over the luxury tax. Teams that win, that are like all in, go over the luxury tax. Now, don't be the Atlanta Hawks. I get that, and that's a conversation all to itself. But right now, okay, what you've spent on Tyrese Halliburton and what you've spent on Pascal Siakam alone in those 2 players, at this point, money should be no fucking object. Okay? At this point, money should be no object. Because you paid Pascal Siakam arguably more than he's worth, and you paid Tyrese Halliburton more than he's worth. Every other player on the team, for the most part, is getting paid what they're worth. But to keep them even Tyrese, like, the amount of money they paid Tyrese when they gave him that extension, he was not worth that much money. So I'm not understanding why they went all in on that. I understand, I can't say I don't understand it, but, I mean, you could have gave him a cheaper extension and he would have been fine. All right, so something tells me the front office is not great at brokering contracts and renegotiating contracts and re-signing players. Because I've seen a lot of real fucking incompetence in the past 4 or 5 years, okay? And for whatever reason, we just don't get the hint. We don't get the hint, okay? Certain players are underpaid, certain players are overpaid, certain players are, like, making exactly what the fuck they're worth. It's a fucking mess. The whole thing is a fucking mess. So, I don't know, man. Like, Aaron Nesmith is a guy you could argue is underpaid. But now Obi Toppin is a guy you could look at and argue is overpaid. Andrew Nembhard, guy you could argue is getting paid about what he's worth. Okay? Tyrese Halliburton, a guy you could argue is overpaid. Pascal Siakam, guy you could argue overpaid, maybe getting paid what he's worth. Okay? Like, Myles Turner, guy that's getting underpaid. So, like, I'm just like, we need to make up our fucking minds. So, tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. Like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report. And I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.